welcome to another episode of Satisfactory Update 5, and on this episode we are concluding our mega factory and completing Satisfactory Update 5. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into it. Alright, so when I started this series of my mega factory build, the whole premise was to be able to get the 4 items that get fed into the space elevator running at 100% efficiency, making sure that we could at least have one manufacturer running as fast as it could, and that is for making the magnetic field generators, which we've got here, followed by, if we zoom all the way over here, we have our assembly director systems. And then we whip over to this over here and we have our nuclear pasta. And finally, we have the thermal propulsion rockets. Each one of these machines are running as fast as they can. What has it taken for us to be able to get these 4 outputs running so that that manufacturer, this particle accelerator, that assembler, and that manufacturer are running at 100%. All feeding into this awesome thing to be able to make us awesome thing fix-it coupons. Well, let's go back to the very start, and that's all the raw materials. So if we go all the way down, all of this factory supports those 4 production lines up there. And if we go all the way back to the beginning, it works out to starting off with all of our various Mark III miners that we have spread around. So in total, for raw material input, it has taken 28 Mark III miners. 5 of them are iron, 7 of them are copper. We have 3 for limestone, 1 sulfur, 4 nodes or Mark III miners for coal, 1 for uranium, 3 for quartz, 2 for bauxite, and 2 for deuterium, to be able to supply all of the raw material goods that go into our mega factories. So now it's been processing those raw material goods. So let's look at our bottom floor here. So the bottom floor of the mega factory consists of many constructors and a few foundries in here, because this floor is processing just about all of our iron, a good portion of our copper, as well as our steel ingots are getting made down here. In total, for the entire factory, we're using 59 foundries and 176 smelters to be able to process our materials that we are working with. The majority of the smelters, of course, are on this floor. There are some on some other floors that are taking care of a few things, but the majority of them you'll find on our first floor here. And as you can see, a good chunk of these are running all the time right now, because everything's getting used on all of the floors above. As certain things start getting caught up and used up and stuff, these are all turning on. So a half an hour ago here, half this stuff wasn't even running because we had just finished the top floor. But now, as things are starting to crank up, everything else is all firing back up. And of course, consuming power as we're moving along here. So let's move up to the next floor. The next floor is where we start actually doing some of our component manufacturing. So we have our iron rods getting made over here. We have our iron plate being made over here. What else is getting built on this side? We got our screw manufacturing all being taken care of on this level. And I believe we're even processing, yeah, we've got our copper wire over here as well. And from copper wire, we also got, if we move on beyond that, we're making our copper sheeting. And then we're also manufacturing our copper cabling on this level as well too. In total, the entire factory has 422 constructors on them to be able to make all of the things. Now, a good chunk of them, of course, are on this floor. There are some spread out amongst the other floors. There's a little bit over at the nuclear power plant. There's some at our, I think it's over at the aluminum manufacturing plant. But we'll go and show you that as we continue on up our various floors here. So the next thing we're going to go look at is our plastic and rubber manufacturing facility and what's happening over at that end. And that's being built way off into the distance over there. So let's zoop over there. So here we are at our rubber and plastic processing facility, and all of this is supported by 3 oil extractors. We didn't need a lot of oil to be able to do what our overall goals were for this. But in total, our factory is using 96 refineries. Not all of them are right here, but a good portion of them are being used in our rubber manufacturing, as well as our plastic manufacturing, as well as our petroleum fuel manufacturing as well too, because of course there's waste products that are coming off of this with, let me just toggle off this interface that we've got here. So we do have the heavy oil residue, and we needed to be able to process that heavy oil residue. So of course, why not turn it into fuel and make a little extra power using more refineries over here. We have enough fuel coming off of this to be able to run 31 fuel generators, all producing additional power for our overall plant. Now, the majority of our power that we're making is coming from our nuclear power plant, and we'll touch base on that here in a little bit. And I did do a full expose on that in the last episode, showing you what it took to build the 30 reactor nuclear power plant, which is generating like 75 gigawatts worth of power. So, but now that we've seen the rubber, let's go have a look at our aluminum plant. So here we are at our aluminum processing. As you can see, we've got more of the refineries over here, as well as water extractors. You know, our entire factory is using 48 water extractors. Of course, not all of them are here. The majority of them are being used for cooling for our nuclear power plant. But in total, we have 48 water extractors, of which these ones here, they're not overclocked, but the majority of the ones that are powering our nuclear power plant, they're all overclocked to 250% with 3 power shards in them. So they're drawing a lot of power, but they're also pumping out a ton of water for the nuclear power plant. But here is our aluminum manufacturing. We've got our refiners making our aluminum solution, or alumina solution. It then gets processed into more refineries to get knocked down into aluminum scrap. And then that aluminum scrap is turned into more ingots, and those ingots are all sent back to our factory. As well as, of course, we've got our silica processing happening over here as well too, because of course it does take silica to be able to make all of our aluminum ingots. So let's head back to the 3rd floor of our factory. Alright, we're back at the factory, and we are now moving up to the 3rd floor of our factory, and let's have a look at what's getting manufactured up here. So we have quartz crystal getting manufactured up here, as well as it looks like we've got our steel beams, our steel pipes are getting manufactured. And what do we got over here? This looks like it is rotors were getting manufactured. Coming up on this side over here, we've got our reinforced iron, yes, this is reinforced iron plates right here. Follow the reinforced iron plates, we have our, I believe they're modular frames getting manufactured. And then we move into our stators are getting done on this floor. And what else are we cranking out here? We've got our encased industrial steel beams getting made. Lots of stuff getting done all on this floor here. So we've got our caterium processing happening over here as well too. So we're making our quick wire all done over here. And what else do we got getting manufactured? This is also more rotors getting made. And also our smart plating. So smart plating is also getting done on this floor. So what are we getting on this floor? The majority of this floor is done with assemblers. And we have 129 assemblers in total in our mega factory. So that's really starting to ramp things up a bit. Now things will start tapering off as we start moving up into the machinery, because of course we're going to start consuming these bits and pieces that we're making from each of these floors. So let's take a break from the mega factory floors and let's take another quick look at our nuclear power plant. So our mega factory's goals were to be able to make those last 4 items for the space elevator, having them running at 100% to be able to load that up to be able to send them off, which we've already completed that on our first playthrough on this. But now we're just dumping them in as awesome sinks. But the other thing that this mega factory is supporting is our nuclear power plant. So this nuclear power plant was designed to consume 600 uranium ore. So that is one normal uranium node overclocked to 250%, producing 600 items per minute. Now that's going to get us 30 nuclear reactors producing our power of nearly 75 gigawatts of power. So what else is this using? This is using refineries. We're also using blenders over here. In total, between what's over at our factory, but of course the majority of them are right here in the nuclear power plant, we have 24 blenders being used for our entire factory and plant over here. The other thing, manufacturers, of which I'm going to say the majority of them are also being used over here at the nuclear power plant to be able to manufacture the various items like our nuclear, or would be the uranium fuel rods, as well as the plutonium fuel rods that are getting dumped into an awesome sink for recycling. Because this is a completely recycled, 100% of the items, the uranium waste here does get recycled and dumped into an awesome sink. So what is that? That's 45 manufacturers in total that we're using. I'm going to say not a good, almost half of them are used in the nuclear power plant. The rest of them are used over in the main manufacturing facility of our mega factory. So that's what we've got happening over here. This is, again, we also got our 3 particle accelerators over here. There's only one more particle accelerator in our entire factory, and that's when we showed right at the beginning there, that's making our nuclear pasta. The rest of this is just for recycling our waste. As well as all the way up over onto the hillside over here is where we have the majority of our water all getting pumped down, because this is providing the cooling for our nuclear power plants, as well as our sulfuric and nitric acid manufacturing that's down here. A small portion of the water coming from up here is being used in our acid manufacturing. The rest of it is all cooling for our nuclear power plants. Alright, now it's time to dive into our 4th floor of our manufacturing line. So what are we making over here? We've got aluminum casing is getting manufactured over on this side, as well as we're also making our alclad aluminum sheeting on this floor. What else are we building? We've got our crystal oscillators are manufactured on this floor, as well as we are making our circuit boards. Our AI limiters are over here, and if we sneak on over to this corner, we are making our heavy modular frames over here. We're also making our computers on this floor. So there's a lot that's all happening on this floor over here. What else we got? We've got our automated wiring is done on this floor. We're making our radio control units over here. We have our battery manufacturing over here as well too. This is where we're making our batteries. Of course, we are using an alternate recipe for the battery manufacturing, just because it was a little bit more, a little simpler to be able to process than what it would be for the standard recipe. And we are making our modular engines here as well too. continuing off into this corner over here, we're making our turbo motors. We've got our cooling systems. More cabling, because I did discover that I wasn't making near enough cables, so now we've got more cable manufacturing happening over here as well. And finally, on this floor, we are making our fused modular frames, which leaves us to the final floor, our 5th floor up top. Now, this floor doesn't seem to be near as impressive because there's not as much required, because really it all comes down to 4 separate production lines to be able to dump into our awesome sink for our final outputs. But to be able to support that, of course, nuclear pasta was the thing that I worked on next. And the nuclear pasta did require copper powder. So this quick little assembly line that's over here is taking our copper. It's all smelting it out into more copper ingots. We have raw copper coming in here. And then that is all being run through a couple of constructors to make our copper powder. The copper powder is then shifted all the way over here into our particle accelerator, and that particle accelerator is combined with our pressure conversion cubes that's making nuclear pasta. Those pressure conversion cubes, they're being manufactured over here. It's just a simple assembler that's taking radio control units and fused modular frames to be able to make all of the pressure conversion cubes that we need to be able to keep this running at 100%. This is never slowing down. It's got everything that it needs to be able to build these at 0.5 of them per minute. So every 2 minutes, this is spitting something out to go into the awesome sink. Over here, also, we have more manufacturers. This is making our thermal propulsion rockets. They're taking our modular frames, turbo motors, cooling systems, and fused modular frames from the floor below to be able to manufacture this. Of course, it's being dumped into that awesome sink over there. So that's taking care of 2 of the items. What else are we building? We've got this handy little unit over here, which is combining supercomputers and adaptive control units into an assembly director. The adaptive control units are also being built right here as, the supercomputers are being built right here. And the adaptive control units are being built where? Trying to remember now where I'm actually manufacturing those from. I've got so many bits and pieces running everywhere. That's the supercomputers. They're feeding... Oh, the adaptive control units. That's over here. That's these 2 manufacturers on this side. It's really easy to get confused as to where everything was starting to go to. So this is making our adaptive control units. And that's all being fed into here to be able to make our assembly director systems, which, of course, are being dumped into our awesome sink over there. So, of course, the support systems for those, which we already talked about, is the supercomputers, as well as we're also, part of our nuclear power plant is needed electromagnetic control rods, as well as those are used in other assembly processes through here. That manufacturing line is all up here as well, too. All done with Constructors. So, and then finally, I believe the last component is this one over here, which is just taking some feeds from the floor below, and that's for our magnetic field generators. So we have our versatile frames and our electromagnetic control rods, of which they're being made on this floor, and batteries getting pulled from down below. That's it. Oh, and here's where our versatile frames are actually being manufactured, is right here, of which it seems to be stalled because it's full. It's making all of the frames it needs, and this, of course, is running at 100%. Everything is cooking, but I had a lot of all of the components basically stockpiled before these machines got turned on. So I could probably crank this up and add more of these, but eventually we would starve out the rest of the factory and they wouldn't be running at 100%. This entire factory, I did spreadsheet after spreadsheet to figure out exactly how much of everything was needed in the previous floors to be able to support each of these components being fed into our awesome sync to have them all running at 100%. But that's wrapped up my Update 5 playthrough. So I started off with my initial playthrough of, getting the space elevator unlocked completely. And then once that was done, I went over to the Mega Factory. So this is actually still technically part of my first playthrough. Now, if we go and save this, I'm going to save this right now. Recording. This is sitting at, once it's done saving, because it takes a while, there's a lot going on here right now. We are 826 hours of game time from the time I dropped on to this planet and ran through the tutorials to the point that I've got a 30 reactor nuclear power plant and this 5-floor mega factory all up and running. So what's coming in the future? In the future, we're going to upgrade to Update 6. Now, Update 6 is still in experimental right now. So we want to, we'll probably do a backup of this world so I can come back to it later on in Update 5. But we will load up the experimental load, and then we will import this map into our experimental build. And we're going to see what's broken. So the next episode is going to show us what broke with Update 6. Because, of course, there was 2 major biome changes with the swamp biome and the Spire Coast. So we're going to see what ended up breaking with that and see how much it really affected both our starter factory, which is way back over there where you can see the space elevator at, and, of course, our mega factory here, just to see, okay, how much damage did that update actually do to our factory. And I know I've got a lot of stuff. I've got coal processing and whatnot, and oil processing over in the Spire Coast for our starter factory that I know is guaranteed to break the starter factory. And then, of course, our aluminum production is coming from the swamp biome, as well as our uranium is coming from the swamp biome for our nuclear power plant. So I'm expecting those nodes to probably break, and that will basically wreck this factory as well too. But it'll be interesting to see what's happened. So that's what you get to look forward to on the next episode. But in the meantime, reach down, hit that like button on the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you can be notified when I've uploaded a new episode. You can also follow me on social media. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. And also, I have been posting occasionally over on TikTok as well too, so you can check that out. All of it is at TerrisDWDC. With that all said, you guys have a great one, and we will see you in the next episode.